Oh, okay, I am old. All right. Never mentioned evangelization in that catechism. So I had to go back and I had to read some documents, I had to read some books, I had to check things out. And then I put together a model of evangelization that made sense to me. Also, too, when I'm talking about reading about books, I hope you'll check these out. These are some good Catholic books, good reading stuff. So for me, evangelization is both micro, very personal, and macro for the whole church. Does that make sense? So we got to have like two pieces of it. Yes, sir?
Is it the spreading of the Christian gospel?
It very well could be the spreading of the Christian gospel. Absolutely. It really is. But how you spread it is kind of important. All right? So we're going to have both micro, and what does micro mean?
Small.
What?
Personal.
Personal. And what does macro mean?
Big.
Big. All right? So we're going to have three, because I can't do more than three. My memory will not hold on to it. All right? We got three levels. The first piece of the micro-evangelization is that you have to get to know yourself. S-E-L-F. Get to know yourself beyond denial. Beyond what you think, who you think you are. You have to be able to tell what are your gifts, what are your challenges, what are your strengths, what are your sins, what are your weaknesses, what are your biases. And biases, you don't even know you've got them until someone hits you in them, right? You don't even know they're there until someone says something and you kind of bristle up. Say, oh, I didn't like that. Why? Because we have biases. They're there. We didn't do it on purpose. It's formed by the filters in our life's experience. We look at people in a certain way. I grew up in a town where there was only one Catholic church, and there was a very, very large Jewish population. I was terrified. I went to a Catholic school, and this is how sad this is, but I heard the term dirty Jew. I was terrified to meet a Jewish person. My first year in high school, I sat down in my homeroom class, and I turned around, and there was Jill Rosenthal, my first Jewish friend. And we've known that. We've celebrated that for 45 years. But I didn't know Jewish people were just like us. I didn't know. So we all have these prejudices and biases just because of our life experiences. Then they can get compounded by families and values, all right? So you have to know who you are. Now, how old are you, sir? 14. Are you the same person that you were when you were 6? No. How old are you, sir? 14. How old are you? Are you the same person that you are when you were 3? So how would you describe yourself now? You think you're a better person because?
Because I know more.
You know more. So knowing is important to her, right? So what happens if you got stupider? Would you be a less good person? No, right. You'd just be a different person. And that's something that you have to pay attention to because you're going to go through your life cycle. How many of you studied about the Eucharist when you made your first communion? All right. Then how many of you have taken a class on the Eucharist since then? Not so many, huh? But we're different people. And we have to take a step back and look at ourselves, who we are and what we're doing, all right? That's the first part of the micro-evangelization. Who are we? What are the gifts that we bring? And what are we doing with them? And this little piece here, what you need here is the examination of conscience. I was really kind of excited when that fellow started the prayer service and said he was going to talk to you about examination of conscience, because that's a fundamental part of our faith tradition, is the examination. I thought I would introduce you a little bit to the spiritual exercises of St. Ignatius of Loyola. If you want to send away and get some of these little pieces, it's really kind of good. It's right on the USCCB. I think if you go into that website there, I think they have 12 different examinations of conscience. So there's all different ways that you can look at your day. This one says, after quieting yourself and placing yourself in the presence of God, you give thanks to God for today. Just stop. Close your eyes, everybody. Just close your eyes and think about today. And just give God thanks for just a little piece. Ask for the grace to recognize and change your shortcomings of today. That means you have to recognize your own shortcomings. Where did I screw up? Where was I impolite? Was I rude? Did I dismiss my husband when I should have listened? Was I mean to somebody else? What was my shortcoming? What did I do? Number 3, look back over your day, being aware of your gratefulness for the day, finding God in all things, in the rainstorm, in the traffic, in your day, and seeing how you responded to people, places, or things. How did you do it? Were you a nice person, or were you just kind of a little snot? I hope I'm allowed to say that in church. You know what I mean? And we do. We have bad days, right? Don't we? We all have bad days, but what are you going to do about them once you get one? You have to own it and recognize it and decide if you're going to keep on behaving like that. You ask God for forgiveness for the times you have fallen short today, and you ask for help in understanding these times. Then you make a plan for tomorrow and ask for God's help in living it out. Right? Simple examination of conscience. St. Francis does another one that's a little bit more fun. Examination of St. Francis, his confession at the zoo, which is a little bit more fun. But again, we take a look at ourselves and what are we doing right and what do we want to change. The second part of evangelization, micro-evangelization, is that you have to get to know your faith. And I just talked a little bit about this. When you look at Eucharist when you're 7 years old, then you go back and you look at Eucharist again when you're 14. I think it's confirmanda, you look at all of the sacraments again. And that's good. But you have to look at your faith as you go around the life cycle. Now, we just got finished with Lent. If your Lent this year is the same thing that you did when you were 7, shame on you. You know, you can't just keep on giving up chocolate every year and expect to change. It just doesn't work that way. You have to mix it up a little bit. You have to think about something else. Maybe expand your mind. Take a course on Judaism. Do something different for Lent. All right? Now, with this faith, you want to be moving towards a mature faith. And a mature faith has several elements. Number 1, it's Christ-centered. You got to have Christ in the picture. It doesn't matter if you think he's a historical figure or not. It was making me laugh when I was thinking, ooh, I've never thought about that, historical figure or not. When we do things because Christ told us to. And when you take that attitude and you take that recognition, it takes ego out of the picture, right? We're doing it because Christ told us to, not because we're great, wonderful people, not because we're smart and we're brilliant. We did it because we're followers of Christ. Do you see the difference there? Because if you're just doing it on your own because you think you're great and wonderful, guess what? You're going to think you're great and wonderful, and you're going to think that you're better than other people. And guess what? You're not better than. You're not less than. We're all children of God, and you have to pay attention to that. All right? So, number 1 is mature faith is Christ-centered. Number 2, it is community-based. C-O-M-M-U-N-I-T-Y. Community-based. Because up here, you can't get beyond denial by yourself. You have to be in community. You have to have a friend that can say to you, you're acting like a horse's patoot. Who knows what a horse's patoot is? Anybody? It's all right, you don't have to say it anyways. All right, horse's backside maybe. If you're acting like a jerk, you have to be able to hear that from some of your friends so you can figure it out. I remember one time I was sitting in my house in North Kingstown, Rhode Island, and I was having coffee with my friends. And Arlene responded to something we were talking about. She just kind of snapped at me. And I said, Arlene, why did you say that like that? And she said, Heidi, because you always act like such a know-it-all. I thought, wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know. I thought I was just sharing a lot of information. I was coming across as a great big fat know-it-all. And I thought, I had to stop and listen. We stayed friends for a long time. Sometimes, you know, you have a friend that tells you something like that, and you say, okay, you are so out of here, girl, I'd never invite you back. But I got to learn about myself from being with friends and listening to them and paying attention, right? So you got to mature, Christ-centered. There has to be a conversion of heart. Conversion. Your conversion. Not somebody else's conversion, but your conversion. Right up here, examination of conscience. If you think you're perfect and don't need to examine your conscience, woo, ding, 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 not good, right? You got to be working on yourself. One of the things when I used to talk about reconciliation, the examination of conscience, it would be 4-part. One of them is your relationships. Who are you in a relationship with? Name some of the relationships you have, kids. Matthew, okay, so friend, you got a friend? How about over here? Some of the relationships you've got going.
Children.
Children, so you're a parent, or you're a child, all right? So what kind of a child am I? How am I treating my mother? What kind of a sister am I being to my sisters? A worker, if you've got a job, what kind of a worker are you being? Are you being respectful to your co-workers, or do you put them down or call them names and or laugh at them when they're not looking? What kind of a person are you being, looking at those different relationships? And then you can look at the 10 Commandments and the commandments of the church. They're still good information. That's still good information. Are you putting God first? Are you paying attention? Going to church on Sunday? Having a holy day? Clean thoughts? Coveting? Oh my gosh, I don't know how people can manage today without coveting something. You turn on the television set and, man, they got so much stuff. I want it all. Oh, so we have to manage our appetites, all right? So you have to be involved in a personal conversion. Being humble is not easy. You have to keep on working at it. And I'm missing one. Christ-centered community. Let me check my notes here. There we go. Aha. This is the big one. Not so important for the children, but the older people. Number one is you've got to be curious. Curious means what? What?
Questioning.
Questioning. Yep, that's good, but what else? If you're curious, you're going to be what? Open. Because unlike the people over here, once you get over here, we're in a different part of the life cycle, and guess what? We do think we know it all. We think we got it all figured out. And if we've been sitting here putting money in the envelopes for 40 years, we want the best seat on the end of the row. So we're not moving it. Now, you kids might not get that, but the rest of us do. Because we're entitled. Because we've been here. We've been doing it. All right? And we know the right way to do it. Do we not, ladies? Yes, gentlemen? We got it right? We know the right way? Nod yes. Yes? No? Yeah, there we go. Okay. There we go. So we got to be curious. Because when you are curious, you are open. Now, you don't have to believe everything else you hear, but you have to be open to it. Does that make sense to you? You need to be curious. You can't, the minute you think you got all the answers, boy, you are dead meat. All right? You're never going to grow, and then we are called to grow. All right? And then finally, we have to get down here, this last piece. But this is micro-evangelization. We get to know ourselves, who we are. We get to know our faith as we pass through the life cycle. That means lifelong faith formation. It doesn't stop when we make our first communion. It doesn't stop when we make our confirmation. It doesn't stop with Sunday morning. We need to be reading books. We need to be taking courses. We need to be trying to understand what is going on. All right? Who are we and what are we doing? And then finally, once we have this faith tradition, we have to live it out joyfully. Joyfully. Let me hear you say it. How are you going to live?
Joyfully.
With what? What does that mean? What? Would you say cash? What? Oh, with passion. Oh, okay. You got to have cash? What? Okay. Joy. This is what it's all about. Oh, is it time? Oh, I've only got 10 minutes? Well, I think I'm just about ready. Then hold on. Thank you very much, Annalise. Right? So you have to live this with joy. This is how we attract people. You said, the very first time you said, when I asked you about evangelization, tell me again what you said. When you want to convert people to your religion, Catholics do it by living their faith joyfully. See those Christians, see how they love one another. I want a piece of the action. That's how we convert, by living the good news, all right, with joyful heart. Then over here we have the macro, which is the full church evangelization. You have the active Catholics, that's you guys, active Catholics. We have the inactive, those are the ones that don't go to church. And then we have the unchurched. Unchurched. These are the ones that have never been. The active Catholics, we need to excite. We want them to be happy and glad that they're Catholics. Inactive Catholics, we want to invite them. E-N-V-I-T-E. We got to say, come, take a look at us. Come, have pizza. We're not such bad people. See what we're doing. And how do we do it?
Joyfully.
Yes, very good. This side's getting it. I don't know about over here. How are we going to do it? All right, very good. And then the unchurched, those that have no faith experience, we have to welcome them. Welcome. We have to welcome them. Now, when do you feel welcomed? When do you feel welcomed? When someone says hello to you. And what do they look like when they say hello to you? Joyful. They got a smile on their face. When do you all feel welcome? Not right now, did you say?
No, when someone says hi.
When someone says hi. Or when someone says, come, sit down. Here, I got a seat for you. Doesn't that make you feel good? When you know what's going to happen next, right? We're a liturgical church. That means we have prescribed rites and rituals. That means we stand up sometimes, we sit down sometimes, we genuflect, we make the sign of the cross. Those are liturgical practices. And once you've got them down, folks, you belong. And when you feel like you belong, you know what you're doing, right? That's why you bother to come to Sunday school, so you can find out about what our liturgy is. Why do we stand up at the gospel? Why do we sit down here? Why do we stand up for this? All right? Once you get the rhythm of that and an understanding, man, it's like a great, big, huge club that you feel like you belong because you know what's going on. Does that make sense to you? Yes? No? And you got to do it how?
Joyfully.
Joyfully. This takes radical, let me get a different pen here. This takes radical hospitality. Radical hospitality. Hospitality begins with your good signage. You're going to have a smile, but you got to let people know where you are and how to get there, so they don't feel stupid. Have you ever been someplace and you feel stupid because you can't figure out where you're supposed to be or where you're going or who's going to be there? It begins with that kind of a simple piece of signage. Let people know where they are. Someone welcomes you at the door and says, oh, I'm telling you, anybody that opens the door and says to someone walking into church, you're late, oh man, I think we should just send them someplace else. You don't say you're late, you say, hi, I'm so happy to see you. Every single class that you go to, every single religious ed class, it should begin by your teacher saying, hey, what's your name? Sherry, I'm so happy to see you today. You should say that, and you should be saying that to one another, because when was the last time someone said that to you? Well, who knows, right? But if you hear that 3 or 4 times a day, don't you think you want to go back? Someone keeps saying that they're happy to see you. Man, I want to be there. It's so much better than, oh no, not you again. Right? Oh, you're late. Oh, get rid of those people. Hospitality. I'm glad to see you. I'm so happy to see you. I'm glad that you came out. All right, I'm going to take you back here. Did you learn anything about love and Jesus? Anything about your faith? A little bit, maybe? How about this? Confirmation. Did we talk anything about confirmation or the Holy Spirit or inspiration here? I did, but I didn't use that terminology. Talking about inspired. Letting good thoughts creep into your head. How about this one here? The afterlife. We didn't talk about the afterlife at all, did we? But we believe in the communion of saints. That's a wonderful piece to know about. Who knows what the communion of saints is? At my house, we have what we call the dead table. And we have pictures of all of our friends that have died. And we have holy cards. We've had a lot of people pass. It's part of life. It's dying, right? And people are going to die. But we believe that they are with us still. As long as we're holding them in our hearts, they're a part of us. I was 15 years old when my 16-year-old brother died. 16 years old, just a few years older than you all. But he is with me still. And I look at his picture and it still makes me smile. I still love him. He's a part of who we are. He's a part of our family. We believe in the communion of saints. So that your body might die, your body's going back to ashes. But if you're in community, if you're right here, if you've got community, you've got people that are going to love you forever. All right? So, how about this? Did anybody get any good ideas? Yeah, one or two? And did anybody get a definition? I've been giving you all kinds of definitions. So that's it, I'm done. Anybody want to disagree? You're more than welcome to. All right. Thank you very much.